Welcome to The Wall. In today's video, we will witness the classic case of a woman who thought that getting divorced was like hitting a piñata. She believed that ending her marriage would bring a shower of alimony and other benefits that the state usually provides. Get ready to see her disillusionment as she discovers that it's not as easy as signing some papers and waiting for checks to fall from the sky. We want to invite you to smash that like button, support the movement, subscribe to the channel. That's the only contribution we ask of you. Man, add your grain of sand to the movement, share your experience in the comments for any man who needs it, and without further introduction, let's begin.
I want to start this video by saying that I'm not asking for money and I'm not asking for sympathy. What I'm asking for is if you are a young 14, 16, 21-year-old girl, listen up. I drove to the grocery store. I need to grab some milk and bread and a couple of things, flipped open the bank app on my phone, and I've been sitting in my car crying ever since because I never have enough money. And why do I never have enough money? Because when I was a 19-year-old girl, I fell in love. My Mormon faith told me that I was supposed to be a stay-at-home mom. I got married. I started having babies. I dropped out of college. I never had a career. My only jobs that I ever had in life were a waitress at the Olive Garden and managing a pretzel maker in a mall. Oh, my first couple years of marriage, I decided that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, so I bought a windshield business. I was 20. And my Mormon stake president reminded me that women weren't supposed to work, so I quit my own business, handed it over to my husband, took my name off of it. I would work our family business throughout the next 24 years of my marriage, but I never got paid. I didn't have a salary. My name wasn't on it. I literally worked for room and board. That's it. I would eventually also launch a custom home building company with my uncle as the architect and my friends as the builder, my designs, my realtor. But again, because my husband was the man, his name was on all of the projects, his name was on the business. I remember one of the last custom homes that I built, we sold it and made about a $260,000 profit. That money all went into his bank account. I didn't even have a bank account. I should have said that in the beginning. I never had a bank account. He would give me little envelopes of cash to go grocery shopping with. Anyway, that house sells, the money goes in the bank. I just asked if I could buy myself a piano with the money. I had worked on building that house for 2 years. All of the money went into his bank account. Nothing was under my name. I got a piano and I got a free house to live in. And I got groceries. So I found myself divorced at age 44 just 5 years ago, and within just a few months, I was living in my car while he made about it.
This woman, a staunch opponent of tradwives and the Mormon Church, who, by the way, haven't looked kindly upon her since the divorce, is famous for shouting her story to the four winds on the internet. But the curious thing is how her story changes to suit her needs, something we will explore later. I remember a video, now mysteriously deleted, where she was clamoring for alimony from her evil husband. According to her, he worked for his father's company, and in the middle of the divorce proceedings, they managed to have the poor man's salary deposited directly into her account. But he, not so naive, resigned immediately. With a shrewd move and the help of his lawyer, he declared himself the sole caregiver of his mother, found independent work, and just like that, he got out of paying alimony. Interestingly, she never mentions that part of the story when she recounts her sad saga. But, of course, why let the facts spoil a good victim narrative? Let's continue with the show and let reality not interrupt her dramatic performance.
$250,000. He would eventually quit that job so that he wouldn't have to pay alimony and child support. He has only paid alimony one time ever in the 5 years since we've been divorced. Once ever. Right after my divorce, I remember being really confident about my ability to get a job, so I put together a resume. I remember one of the first interviews that I had as a management position for a windshield company, similar to the one that we had run. And the man actually laughing as he was interviewing me, like he was really sympathetic. He wasn't being a douchebag, but he was laughing. And he's like, so let me get this straight. You helped manage your family windshield business with your husband, but you were mostly a stay-at-home mom, and all you did was like the marketing and the hiring, firing, and some of the strategy for the business. but it became really apparent that I needed so many more skills to have any type of management job. I couldn't even work the basic computers. He told me in the interview, please don't apply for any more jobs like this. You are not qualified at all. You're not capable of doing this unless you go back to school and get your degree or get some different experience. And so I ended up, my first job after my divorce was $11 an hour, 4 hours a day, working as an assistant to a school teacher in an elementary school. I made $44 a day. For 24 years, I lived in $1 million homes. I vacationed all over the world. I spent my summers in Hawaii. I could buy myself $500 jeans, diamond tennis bracelets. We had boats and RVs and whatever I wanted. And it never bothered me once that my financial security was dependent on that man being in love with me. I never realized that him liking me or not liking me or finding me sexy or attractive or interesting determined whether or not my children could eat, whether or not I could buy myself a fucking jug of milk and a loaf of bread. So I had my 5th surgery in 2 years, 2 weeks ago, and I'm supposed to be in bed resting, and I can't because I've worked 7 days a week since my divorce 5 years ago, which is why I'm covered in paint and looking like crap. We actually have a 4-day weekend here in Tucson, and since my partner isn't working, he's working on furniture flip partner projects with me. I have no retirement. I have no savings, no education, no resume. I was almost a straight A student throughout all of my education. I went to college at age 17. I had dreams for my future. I'm working so hard to get myself out of just perpetual side hustle hell. There's not a day that goes by that I don't wonder why. Why I didn't have a fucking backup plan. Why my kids eating and having stability was dependent on a romantic relationship. Why nobody told me to put money in the bank. Why nobody told me, don't have babies until you have an education and some experience. Don't have so many kids. I wish somebody had told me to put my name on our vehicle loans and to put my name on our houses. I wish somebody had told me that it's okay to put those babies in daycare for a couple days a week and go to college and have a job. And I think I need to do an entire tradwife sequel, because you can be happy and rich and loving your life like Ballerina Farm until the guy walks out. I want you guys to imagine for a minute, even rich Hannah, if Deanna walked out, if all of his financial backing and he had to sell the farm, and then what does she have? Find another rich boy to marry? I just don't want one more woman to DM me, comment, send me their stories, cry to me about how hard it is for them to support their families, and I am so tired of living my own story. We have to make this stop. Raise your daughters to be financially independent. Focus on their futures and educations just as much as you focus on your sons. I wish that someone had done that for me.
Remember that every story has 2 sides. She says she ended up on the street, but in another video, she kept the house. Besides, she left her husband for checking her phone, an iPhone, as always, with 5 kids. Do you think that woman would be sleeping in her car? No state would leave a woman with 5 kids, who was cheated on and divorced, out on the street. But as I always say, in all internet divorce dramas, the man is the abuser and she is the victim. I'm not excusing this man, but I watched all the videos. When a woman goes to a man's workplace, which was owned by his family, to have his earnings transferred to her account, how do you think he would react? Besides, if you created so much together, are you telling me you never had money, never did anything, and supposedly you were the mastermind behind all the businesses? But let's see the next part, because there's a lot more to this story.
How about a story time with some pictures? When I was around 20 years old, my brand new Mormon returned missionary husband and I bought a windshield business. It was really successful. It was 1996, and our very first month, our take-home pay was $14,000, and it just went up from there. We had more money than we knew what to do with. For the first couple of years, we just worked from our home. I had windshield racks out in the garage and an office upstairs. And while I ran the whole entire show, I did all of the phone calls, advertising, marketing, all of the accounting, quotes, customer care. I did all the routing and the schedules and everything. And my husband went out during the day and actually did the windshield installs. About a year into running that business, I had a surprise pregnancy and my first baby was born. One night, I had to go meet with my Mormon stake president for my Temple Recommend interview for all you Mormons out there. And he asked me, what do you like to do all the time, Sister Green? And I told him, I like to hike, I like spicy Mexican food, and I run our business Monday through Friday from about 7 to 7. He looked at me with absolute shock. His name was President Stradling. I still remember this guy who changed my life forever. And he was like, oh, I knew that Brother Green had a windshield business, but I had no idea that you were involved in it. And he told me that Heavenly Father had commanded me to stay home and raise my baby. And he called Jake into his office and he said, hey, why don't you guys spend the week fasting and praying about how to phase Sister Green out of the business so that she can obey Heavenly Father's commandment to stay home and be a wife and mother. And 1 week later, we hired my sister to take over answering the phones, and I would never, ever be employed again until 5.5 years ago when I divorced. So here's a picture of me with my son in our home office, and I was still kind of working like I was helping my sister, I think, on this day, or doing something, filing, doing the taxes. But I no longer had my name on the LLC, and I no longer had a salary, and I no longer had any income. We also had a secondary business, which was buying and sometimes flipping and sometimes custom building homes. This home here, I designed from the ground up with my architect uncle. I oversaw the subcontractors. I literally drew the floor plan with the architect. I did all of the interior design, bought all the furniture, did all of the landscaping, and it was my realtor who then would eventually sell the home for a massive, like, $250,000 profit, while my husband didn't even live in the same state with me. He wasn't even there to hire the realtor, sell the home. When this household, I didn't even have a bank account. The money went into Jake's bank account. I didn't have any access to it. He was giving me little envelopes of cash to go grocery shopping with, and we had $250,000 from money from a home that I had built sitting in his bank account that I couldn't touch. But that was okay because he was my husband. We were building a life together. It was our money.
See how the story changes every time. At first, she said she bought the windshield business, then that she founded the real estate business with a relative. There's always something else she did. You know what I think? This is one of those women who gets involved with an entrepreneurial man. One of those who knows various trades, founds small service companies, and when they succeed, she steps in and drops the golden phrase, behind every great man, there's a great woman. If she worked as much as she says, how did she take care of the kids? Because, according to her, she did the work of half the company by herself. And if she was selling a house in another state, how did she manage her home if she was supposed to be a traditional mother? Her story doesn't make any sense. But wait, because there are even more businesses this woman founded. Don't miss the second part.
A couple years after that, when Jake was partners of some type in an auto dealership, I don't actually even know all of the specifics, and I'll probably never know, he decided that he was going to drive transport for this auto dealership. And so he got a CDL license and started going out on the road, and I decided that I was going to go with him. So I worked on getting my CDL permit, and while my mother-in-law came and stayed with our kids, I spent 2 weeks out of every month driving across the country, tarping loads, unloading loads, gassing up a truck, sleeping in a truck stop, showering in truck stop restroom, brokering some of the loads, actually doing the distribution, mapping and doing everything. And also, while doing all of that, prepping all of the food so that Jake had custom gourmet food to take on the road with him. And I didn't get paid for any of it. In fact, it was a really weird dynamic. Like, we would go into truck stops and he would be like, if you need to buy yourself some new sunglasses or anything, then go ahead and help yourself. And it made me very much feel like I had felt for our whole entire 22 years of marriage at that point, that he was my sugar daddy and that I was completely dependent on him. Kind of like the feeling that I had when I was a middle school girl with my mom and dad. Like, yay, my mom bought me a pair of sunglasses that I can't afford by myself. When in fact, I was working the same number of hours and driving the same miles as him. And we lived in really nice houses, and we worked hard and invested and built a really great lives for ourselves. And we provided a beautiful, beautiful experience for our kids. We ran these family businesses together for 24 years. so that at some point we could retire and coast into our 50s and put the kids through college and maybe buy a little place in Hawaii and just relax. Instead, my husband abandoned me and his kids for a 19-year-old escort 24 years into our marriage. And my name wasn't on the business, and my name wasn't on our vehicles. My name wasn't even on the condo that he was able to evict me from, just simply because I had never even existed. All he had to do was move out and cancel the lease, and they kicked me out. Within 2 days, I couldn't buy groceries. Within 10 months, I would be living in my car. Only one of us is living the life of our dreams, vacationing across the country, doing whatever they want, going to the gym twice a day. And let me give you a guess, but it isn't me. Ironically, Jake has taken up baking sourdough bread, which is so weird. He even uses the little blade and scores the little designs on top. I don't have time for that shit. I'm trying to play catch up as a 50-year-old woman to support my kids and try to have some type of retirement so that I'm not just living in a box when I'm 90. A man is not a plan, never has been, never will be.
See what I told you? This woman did so many things that the only thing she didn't do was take care of her husband. Also, she should give us the name of the state, because all men should go there to get divorced. Are you telling me that after 24 years of marriage, being millionaires, she didn't get anything? Not the house, not half the money, not child support, not even a vehicle. Damn. Give me that man's lawyer's number, because I've never seen a divorce where the man comes out so clean. This sounds faker than a $3 bill. This woman never misses an opportunity to play the victim. What really happened, and I know because I saw another video before, was that the man left his $500,000-a-year job, started taking care of his mother, and worked as an independent contractor, so she couldn't get alimony. The guy made a master move and got out of it. She kept the house, got half the money, but didn't get the alimony. Now the man seems to have recovered, and that bothers her. She couldn't get the alimony, but she married another beta provider and moved him into her house. What really hurts her is that her ex knew how to bounce back. And if you watch her latest video, she forgets all the lies she told and mentions the house she sold, which seems to be the same one she was living in. How convenient.
Not to sound really stupid, but is the Boston Marathon longer than the LA Marathon?
No, all marathons are the same length.
So I commented on this video and I was agreeing with her. I was yeah, exactly. I love being a stay-at-home wife. Can't wait to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't want to get a job because I don't want a fucking job. If I wanted a job, I would get a job. I do not need a job. And someone was all the other people said that too. All the stay-at-home moms said that too, and look where that got them. And I'm okay, their husbands are trash. Mine is not. Well, they thought their husbands weren't trash too. Okay, just because, first of all, I know you don't have a husband. I know you don't. That's easy to see, easy to identify. And just because your husband sucks doesn't mean my husband sucks. Yours does. Mine does.
There's a lot to unpack in this video. Let me just start here. There are times when we as a society agree collectively that something is so inherently dangerous that we need to prevent it, whether that's through regulation and legislation or just social pressure. For instance, not wearing a seatbelt. People under the age of 21 drinking alcohol. Taking your dog for a walk on a sidewalk without a little strap attached to his neck. Why do we collectively care so much right now about the dialogue and protective measures around women like this, depending on their intimate partners for everything, for their food, for their home, for their income for the rest of their lives, for retirement, healthcare? Because we're finally starting to recognize more and more the inherent danger of this lifestyle. I was the ultimate stay-at-home mom, because I was a Mormon tradwife. So I had all the things. I had the religion and the belief that what I was doing was God's plan for my life and for my children. I had 4 kids and that wasn't enough, so we adopted an extra one. And I had all the benefits of that Mormon tradwife glam. We had the $1 million houses and the Mercedes and the boats and the RVs. And I spent the entire summer in a $3 million house in Maui overlooking the Pacific Ocean, taking a bath on this clawfoot tub out on the patio, watching the sunset over Molokai. Ski trips to Telluride, where the mountainside concierge would wax up my skis for me, clip my little feet into them, and give me a push towards the run. I mean, literally, that was my life. That was my life for 24 years. And if you've been on any of my TikToks, you know that that came at a price. That price was that my husband was abusive in so many different ways. I don't think that he missed a single abuse checkbox. But I was raised in a shit show of a family, and I upgraded when I married Jake. He was a lot nicer to me than my dad was. So when I got married at age 20, I had a little bit less abuse and a little bit less screaming and a little bit less craziness and money, and all this stuff. Upgrade. Then one day in 2018, just a couple days after we had celebrated our anniversary, Jake told me he was going to go up to Barrow's Pizza and do some work so that he could get away from the house and get ready for his work week. And what he was actually doing was driving to a QT gas station where he had arranged to pick up a 19-year-old escort. I always say she was 19 because that's what he had put into the Google search bar. 19-year-old escort Phoenix. So all of a sudden, just like that, all the stuff went away. The house and the cars and the trips to Maui. Within 2 days, I couldn't buy a bag of groceries at Trader Joe's. I had to have a family member Apple Pay me at the register $43 so that I could buy milk and bread for my kids. This morning, sorry, I said I wasn't going to cry anymore in my videos. I keep reshooting this. I cannot cry. This morning, I woke up an hour early, laid here in bed, filled out an application for a tiny little apartment that I barely had the money to put the deposit on because my uncle, whose guest house I have been renting, gave us about 5 weeks to get out. This will be the 4th time since my marriage ended that my kids have lost a home. The 4th time that my kids have been sorting through closets to decide what goes to Goodwill, what goes to storage, what we can squeeze into this tiny little apartment. While 60% of men do better after divorce, women across the board do not do better after divorce. Period. End of story. All data shows that women are worse off after divorce. Less than 80% of stay-at-home moms have any retirement in their name, which is why elderly, unmarried women who have been divorced or widowed are the highest poverty demographic in our country. I personally feel that it's time to illegalize alimony. Take it off the table, eliminate it. If there was no alimony, there would never be another little 20-something with her cute little dimples talking about how she married a good apple and her husband is better than all the husbands and this shit is never going to happen to her. And when she's 70 and she can't afford her insulin and her diabetic medication or whatever the thing is, and she's living with her kids or living in the streets, take alimony away, and I guarantee the women going to work would be exponentially higher. Better tax credits for childcare, paternity leave for men, and across the board, state-mandated payment for stay-at-home moms. Minimum wage at the minimum put into an account that is non-divisible in case of divorce. It is only hers. It is never his. A man is not a plan. He can be your husband. He can be your boyfriend, your lover, your roommate, whatever you want him to be, but he is not your financial future.
Now I understand the saying, a liar needs a good memory. This woman showed that same house as the one she designed with her uncle and sold. And you're telling me that a woman with 5 kids would be out on the street after a divorce? She had $1 million house, which is coincidentally the same one she said she sold in her architecture business. Remember also the windshield business and the trucking business she did, but at the same time, she stayed home with 5 kids. Did this woman ever sleep? According to her story, she did everything. That's why I say they use their divorce to gain followers. At first, it was about her divorce, then an attack on tradwives. Now it's against the Mormon Church. She looks for enemies to make her content go viral by talking about hot topics. So, let me get this straight. That man had businesses making over $500,000 a year, $1 million house, cars worth over $200,000, a bank account with over $500,000, and a woman with 5 kids. In the divorce, she got nothing. What state did this man get divorced in? Or better yet, give me his lawyer's number, because this is a case study that can save the financial life of many men. I've never seen anything like it. This woman doesn't regret losing her marriage, but the privileges that man gave her. In one thing, I agree. Women divorce for the benefits they'll receive. She thought she could keep everything. Why do you think it was for cheating? It was because she had the idea that if she got divorced, she would get everything from this man. That's why she's mad about the benefits of divorce, because she didn't get them, especially the alimony. If it hadn't gone wrong, I assure you she wouldn't have left that fabulous life to be struggling as she is now. But it's too late to regret it because the wall doesn't forgive. We've reached the end of the video, but before we go, the questions are for you. Do you believe everything she said in her story? Could you notice the inconsistencies in her story? How everything she said didn't match up with what actually happened? If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. Your support means the world to us and motivates us to create more content. Stay tuned for the next exciting video from the wall.